that the Trump administration would say, well, we haven't done anything, right? Like the president said this, but it's not like we have done anything yet that has actually caused these two folks harm. Now, I would argue, well, of course they've been caused harm because they have the federal government now investigating them. But that's the game though that you're seeing the DOJ lawyers play in court in a lot of these executive orders is that people run in and say these executive orders, these are illegal, and the Department of Justice is like, oh, that was just like something he wrote. It's just like it hasn't become anything. So it's not yet ripe. There's not yet standing to challenge it. I think that these two individuals have a really good case that just the mere fact that these executive orders or executive memoranda, I think they were issued is enough. But I think that will be the question of whether they go to court now or wait to see if something happens.
So I get this idea that they might not have standing until something is actually done. But then there's also the atmospheric impacts of being at the receiving end of an executive memorandum, basically just targeting two people by name specifically from the mouth of somebody who has the biggest bully pulpit in America and somebody who commands the attention of people who are going to direct their ire on Trump's behalf to those people. And so what happens in the event, for example, that there are bomb threats called into these people's houses, that there are bricks thrown through their windows, that they become the targets of targeted harassment by these people, that they can't go certain places. This isn't something that Trump himself specifically did at the hands of the DOJ, but the fact that he noted them by name, that's going to have atmospheric impacts on a base that's already proven themselves perfectly willing to do Trump's bidding in the public sphere.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The fact is that this will have second and third order effects. So you mentioned one of the third order effects could be private harassment that they get from people who are Trump supporters. Even before you get there, I mean, if you're Chris Krebs or you're Miles Taylor and you are trying to, earn a living working for a company, and if that company has any interaction with the government, I mean, this is, not going to be not going to make that any easier. If you need to yourself interact with the federal government, maybe you need to get a Social Security payment for your parent, or you need to get a passport. Like, the Donald Trump. It is not just that what he has done here is unconstitutional. It's not just that as you say, people in his administration will pay attention because he's the president. This is an administration of sycophants. This is an administration of people who pride themselves on saying they are not independent of Donald Trump and that they take every utterance Donald Trump makes to be, somehow down from up high. And so the immediate second order effects could actually be quite consequential. And again, I hate to keep tying it back to the law firms, but the law firms that have fought are fighting precisely because they're saying those second order effects could put them out of business. Well, now you're not some multi-billion-dollar law firm. Now you're just an individual whose only offense is telling the truth about 2020. You've gone on with your life. It's now 5 years past 2020. You've gone on with your life and you've got this hanging over your head. And before you get to the right-wing trolls, you've got to interact every day and fear that at any time the full force of the federal government could come down on you, could come down on your loved ones, your businesses, your associates. It is absolutely what dictators do.
Yeah.
Is to try to use these kinds of powers to intimidate their political opponents and to target their political opponents. And my question is, you and I are talking about this, but where the hell is the legacy media on this? Where is the outrage? Why do we not see a concerted focus on this? Because I promise you this, if this was aimed at a reporter, it'd be on the front page of the newspaper every single day. They'd have like a little box, covering it.
Knowing full well that there are those second and third order effects, is there a way that he would have that any of these guys would have any standing to bring forward some type of case, even if there isn't direct harm at the hands of the DOJ, but like understanding the media environment that we live in, understanding, for example, that when you have somebody like Donald Trump who tweets "Be there, will be wild" on January 6th, and suddenly tens of thousands of people come down to the Capitol in, in Washington D.C. and ultimately storm the building. Like we know, because we have precedent from Donald Trump issuing his edicts and saying things in the public square what can happen, even if he tries to preserve some degree of plausible deniability and say, well, I didn't tell them, to storm the Capitol. I just said, come here. Like we already know. And so you can lean on this idea that he didn't directly come out and say, break the windows and enter the building, in the same way that he can say, well, I didn't tell anybody to harass, Krebs and Taylor, but we know what happens. And so they can kind of play these games, but here on Earth One, we know the practical consequences of his actions. And so do they have any standing in that respect to be able to push back against Trump?
Look, as I said, I think that they have standing to move forward now. My point is they may choose not to, because they may want to just wait to see what plays out. Everyone's
Yeah.
got to make their own decision here.
Right.
But I think that the harms of this are immediate
Yeah.
across a range of consequences. And you're exactly right. I mean, you and I talked about this, at the time when Donald Trump stood before the Department of Justice and said that I am a bad person and that I am a communist trying to undermine America. Like, it was neither lost upon me that sitting in the front row was the Attorney General and the head of the criminal division and the head of the FBI. And it was also wasn't lost on me that, he's got his legions of followers and fans.
Right.
And adherents around the country. They read that as well. And you do see an uptick in that when he mentions you. I mean, I can tell you that from firsthand experience. When Donald Trump targets me by name, I see an increase in that kind of hate that is targeted. And as you point out, and I think this is one of the main messages that I hope people walk away with, is he knows that that's the effect.
Right.
Like it's not like, oh my gosh, I didn't mean to do that. No. He's doing it because that he knows that that's one of the
Right.
impacts that it will have, and for precisely that reason. And by the way, he's not the only one. There's a certain billionaire who may have even purchased a social media platform who knows it as well,
Right.
and who dismantled a lot of the protections that were in place, at least there. So I think these two individuals, I feel for them. I think that they have been wronged. I think that they have a case in court, and I support them if they decided to bring it. I also understand the reasons why they may decide to wait. But all of us need to be outraged by this. Like today he's targeting those two people. Next he'll target some other group. And he feeds off of the negative hate that these folks then experience.
Right. And also feeds off of the fact that when he sees one person, one group, one entity, one company capitulate, that emboldens him to know that he can do it even more, which is why it's so damaging that we do have these law firms that are opting to capitulate as opposed to standing up and fight. And I mean, to have these law firms kind of sometimes even before they're targeted kowtow to Trump in the face of, as opposed to what you're doing, which is you are called out by name in front of the Department of Justice, in front of the Attorney General, and yet rather than capitulate, you've opted to fight back. So to that exact point, look, we need fighters, and nobody exemplifies that more than Mark and his team. So for those who are watching right now, if you'd like to support the work that Mark and his team are doing, the best way to do that is to sign up for Democracy Docket. It's the news outlet Mark founded to focus on everything voting and elections. It's an invaluable resource that I use on a daily basis. I'll put the link right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
I'm Mark Elias.
This is Democracy Watch.